You are not here by accident. Right now, in this exact moment, something deeper than coincidence has brought you to this video. You could have been anywhere. You could have scrolled past, but you didn't. Because a part of you, a part that exists beneath thought, beneath language, beneath everything you were taught to believe about money, about worth, about what is possible for you, that part of you already knows what you are about to discover. Most people will live their entire lives without ever understanding why abundance flows freely to some and seems permanently sealed away from others. They will work harder, worry more, chase every opportunity, and still feel that invisible wall between themselves and the life they were meant to live. They will blame the economy. They will blame their background. They will blame luck. But luck is not what separates those who live in infinite abundance from those who do not. There is a source, ancient, precise, encoded into the very architecture of reality itself. A source that was known by the builders of Luxor, by the alchemists of Alexandria, by the mystery schools of Sumer and Tibet. A source that modern science is only now beginning to confirm, not in metaphor, but in measurable, reproducible fact. This source is not outside you. It has never been outside you. And in the next 35 minutes, you are going to learn exactly how to activate it. Stay with me. Everything is about to change. Philosophical context. To understand what the money source truly is, we must go back. Not decades, not centuries, thousands of years, to a time when the division between science and spirit had not yet been invented. Because that division, that artificial wall between the seen and the unseen, is precisely what has kept humanity locked out of its own inheritance. The ancient alchemists did not merely seek to transform lead into gold. That was the surface teaching, the exoteric veil drawn over a far more radical truth. What the alchemists were actually mapping was the transformation of consciousness itself. They called it the magnum opus, the great work. And at its center was a single revolutionary principle. The outer world is a mirror of the inner world. Not metaphorically, literally, the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without, was not poetry. It was a precise description of the mechanics of reality. The universe is not a collection of separate, solid objects bumping into one another through empty space. It is a unified field of vibrating information, and human consciousness is not a passive observer of that field. It is a participant, an active, creative, irreducible participant. Quantum physics arrived at this same conclusion through a completely different door. The double-slit experiment, one of the most replicated experiments in the history of science, demonstrated something that shattered the Newtonian worldview. A particle does not have a fixed position until it is observed. Before measurement, it exists as a wave of probability, a superposition of all possible states simultaneously. The act of observation collapses the wave. Consciousness participates in the creation of physical reality. Now, consider what this means. If matter itself is probabilistic, if reality at its deepest level is not fixed but fluid, not determined but potential, then the question of abundance is not a question of circumstance. It is a question of frequency. It is a question of what your consciousness is doing at levels below your conscious awareness. And here is where it becomes even more extraordinary. Inside every cell of your body, there is a molecule you have been carrying since birth, deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. Scientists have long understood its role in encoding biological information, hair color, eye color, cellular function. But cutting-edge research in a field called epigenetics has revealed something that changes everything. Your DNA is not a fixed blueprint. It is a dynamic antenna. It responds to signals from its environment, including the energetic environment created by your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your dominant state of being. Dr. Bruce Lipton's work at Stanford demonstrated that the membrane of a cell, not its nucleus, is the true intelligence center. and that it responds to energetic signals from the field around it. The German physicist Fritz Albert Popp spent decades measuring what he called biophoton emissions, coherent light produced by DNA, and found that healthy, high-functioning DNA emits light in precise, organized patterns, while stressed, fearful, or contracted states produce chaotic emissions. Your body is literally broadcasting a signal into the quantum field, and that signal is shaped by what you believe about yourself, about money, about what you deserve, about what is real. The ancient masters called this the inner alchemy, the youth alchemy, the transformation of the base substance of fear, lack, and unconscious programming into the gold of coherent, abundant, creative consciousness. Modern biology calls it epigenetic reprogramming. The name does not matter. The mechanism is the same. The money source is the point where your consciousness meets the quantum field. It is the interface between what you are on the inside and what manifests on the outside. And it has been waiting, patiently, perfectly, without judgment, for you to activate it. The 2026 connection. We are living through something unprecedented. Every major wisdom tradition on Earth, from the Vedic calendar cycles to the Mayan long count to the Kabbalistic systems of cosmic time, identified specific periods in human history as windows of accelerated transformation. Periods when the veil between dimensions grows thin, periods when consciousness has access to forces and frequencies that are simply not available during ordinary cycles. We are inside one of those windows right now. Astronomers have been tracking something extraordinary in the behavior of the Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic frequency of the Earth's ionospheric cavity, sometimes called the Earth's heartbeat. For most of recorded history, this frequency held relatively stable at approximately 7.83 Hz. In recent years, scientists have documented dramatic spikes, surges that some researchers correlate with periods of collective human awakening and individual transformation. The year 2026 carries particular significance across multiple systems of understanding. Numerologically, 2026 reduces to the master frequency of a new creative cycle, a year of initiation, of structures collapsing to make way for higher forms of organization. Astrologically, the convergence of outer planetary positions occurring in this period happens only once every several centuries, creating what ancient skywatchers called a quantum leap, a moment when the gap between where humanity is and where it is capable of going narrows to almost nothing. This is not something that is coming. It is already here. And what this means for you specifically is this. The work you do right now, the inner work, the activation work, the reprogramming of the deep frequencies you carry in your body and your field, has exponentially more power than the same work done in any other period. The field is amplified. The resonance is available. The door is open. The question is not whether transformation is possible. The question is whether you will walk through the door while it is open. We are in the great transformation, the quantum leap, and you are watching this video because some part of you already knows it. The 7 sacred keys. There is a sequence to activation. An order that is not arbitrary, but encoded in the very structure of consciousness and biology. The ancient mystery schools organize their teachings around this sequence, and when we understand why, the teachings stop being mystical and become almost mechanically precise. There are 7 sacred keys to activating your money source. Each one corresponds to a specific layer of your being, from the deepest energetic foundation to the outermost expression in physical reality. Sacred Key 1. The coherence field. Before anything else, there must be coherence. The HeartMath Institute, a legitimate scientific research organization based in California, has spent more than 3 decades studying the electromagnetic field produced by the human heart. What they found is that the heart produces a field that extends several feet outside the physical body, and that this field contains measurable information about the emotional state of the person. When a person is in a state of fear, frustration, or anxiety, the heart's electromagnetic output becomes incoherent, chaotic, disorganized, unpredictable. When a person enters a state of genuine appreciation, love, or inner peace, the heart's output becomes coherent, ordered, rhythmic, and extraordinarily powerful. Biologically, heart coherence activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing cortisol, opening the prefrontal cortex for higher-order thinking, and, crucially, shifting the epigenetic expression of DNA toward regenerative patterns. Energetically, coherence is the frequency on which the quantum field receives your signal clearly. Incoherence is noise. Coherence is communication. Your first task in activating the money source is to become coherent. Not permanently, though that is the long-term goal. Even moments of genuine coherence begin to shift the signal you are broadcasting. Sacred Key 2. The Ancestral Clearing. You did not arrive here empty. You arrived carrying the emotional imprints of your lineage, the beliefs, the fears, the survival programs of every ancestor who lived through scarcity, persecution, limitation, and loss. This is not metaphor. Epigenetic research has now confirmed that traumatic experiences leave chemical markers on DNA that can be transmitted across multiple generations. A study published in Nature Neuroscience demonstrated that mice trained to fear a specific scent pass that fear response, encoded epigenetically, to their children and grandchildren who had never been exposed to the original training. You may be carrying fear of poverty that belonged to your great-grandparents. You may be carrying beliefs about money being dangerous, or shameful, or impossible that were formed in circumstances that have nothing to do with your life. The second sacred key is the deliberate acknowledgement and release of inherited limitation. This is not about blame, it is about recognition. When you can see a belief clearly, when you can say, "This does not belong to me, this is not the truth of my life," I release it with gratitude for what it protected us from, and with the understanding that its protection is no longer needed, the epigenetic markers begin to shift. In practical terms, this means sitting with your beliefs about money with honesty and compassion, writing them down, tracing them back, asking whose voice this actually is, and then consciously, deliberately, choosing a different story, not with positive thinking, but with the full weight of your decision. Sacred Key 3. The creative state. Ancient Vedic texts described a state of consciousness called Turiya, the fourth state, beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It is the state of the witness, the state of pure creative potential, the state in which the individual self touches the field of infinite possibility. Every great artist, inventor, and creator has accessed this state, usually without knowing what it was called or why it worked. Modern neuroscience has identified its correlates precisely. When the brain enters a state of deep, relaxed focus, not sleep, not active analysis, but the theta brainwave state found just at the boundary between waking and sleep. The prefrontal cortex quiets, the default mode network becomes accessible, and the brain opens to pattern recognition and insight that is simply not available during ordinary beta state consciousness. This is the creative state, and it is the state in which new money pathways are seeded. Biologically, this means deliberately inducing theta brainwave activity through meditation, breathwork, or the liminal period just before sleep. The ancients used drumming, chanting, and sacred movement. You can use breath. The specific technique will come in a moment. The creative state is where possibility lives. It is where you stop trying to figure out how and allow the field to show you what is already trying to emerge. Sacred Key 4. The frequency of deserving. This key is where most people quietly, invisibly fail. They do all the outer work. They set the intentions. They perform the rituals. And then, in the silence beneath their conscious effort, A voice says, "But not me. Not really. Maybe for others. Not for me." The frequency of deserving is not about self-esteem in the psychological sense. It is about something more fundamental, what the Kabbalists called the vessel. In Kabbalistic teaching, abundance is not withheld. It flows constantly, endlessly, like light from a source that never diminishes. What determines how much abundance you receive is not the generosity of the universe. It is the size of your vessel, the capacity of your inner space to receive. A vessel with holes loses everything that enters it. A vessel that is too small overflows and wastes the surplus. A vessel that has been told it does not deserve to receive turns away at the door. Biologically, the frequency of deserving is registered in the nervous system as safety. When you feel genuinely safe, not the performed safety of forced positivity, but the deep cellular safety of a body that knows it belongs, that knows its existence is not a mistake, that knows it is worthy of sustenance and flourishing, your whole physiology opens. Blood flow changes, hormone profiles shift. The body stops conserving and begins expanding. To cultivate this frequency, you must practice receiving. Not just money, anything. A compliment, a gift, help, beauty, pleasure. Let it in all the way in without immediately deflecting it or minimizing it. Each time you allow yourself to receive, you are expanding the vessel. Sacred Key 5, the language of the field. The universe does not speak in words. It speaks in feeling, in image, in the body's sensory language, the language that was present long before the development of abstract verbal thought, the language that still runs beneath everything you say and think, organizing your experience of reality from the ground up. Affirmations fail for most people because they are words. The conscious mind produces the words. The subconscious mind, which is running 95% of your biological programming, according to cognitive neurologist Dr. Candace Pert, receives them as foreign objects and rejects them. The subconscious does not think. It feels. It images. It knows through the body. The fifth sacred key is learning to speak the field's native language. This means generating the embodied feeling state of the reality you intend to inhabit before it has arrived in physical form. Not pretending, not performing, genuinely accessing, through memory or imagination, the felt sense of what it is like to live in abundance, in freedom, in creative flow. The warmth in the chest, the relaxed quality of the breath, the sense of spaciousness in the body. When you can hold that state for even a minute, you are broadcasting a coherent signal into the quantum field, a signal that contains the specific information of the reality you intend to call forth. The ancient temples were designed to produce exactly this experience. The proportions, the acoustics, the light, all engineered to bring the body into a specific felt state. You carry that temple inside you. The fifth key is learning to enter it. Sacred Key 6. The Sacred Exchange. Abundance is not accumulation. It is flow. Every wisdom tradition that has ever addressed wealth has understood this. The principle of tithing in the Abrahamic traditions, the concept of dana in Buddhism, the potlatch ceremonies of the Pacific Northwest indigenous peoples, the Vedic teachings on Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance, who flows like water, never stagnant, always moving, blessing those who allow her to pass through them and withholding from those who clutch and dam her current. The sixth sacred key is the establishment of what you might call sacred exchange, a practice of conscious, willing, grateful giving that signals to your deepest self and to the field that you operate from abundance rather than scarcity. Biologically, acts of genuine generosity activate the release of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, the neurochemical signature of safety, connection, and well-being. Your body does not distinguish between giving money and giving attention or time or skill. What it registers is the quality of the intention, whether you are giving from fear of not enough or from the felt sense of more than enough. Give as if you are already living in your abundant future, because at the quantum level, you are. Sacred Key. 7. The embodied anchor. The seventh key is perhaps the most practical and the least understood. Transformation that lives only in the mind does not last. Insights, revelations, elevated emotional states, they come and go. The intellectual understanding of abundance principles does not change your life. Only what is anchored in the body, registered at the cellular level, encoded in your physical patterns of breath and posture and movement, only that becomes the new baseline from which you operate. The ancient Egyptian initiates understood this. Their rituals were not primarily mental or emotional, they were physical. The body was moved, specific postures were held, specific sounds were made with the voice. Because the body is the subconscious mind made physical, to change the subconscious, you must speak to it through the body. The seventh sacred key is creating a physical anchor, a specific movement, posture, breath pattern, or gesture that you consciously associate with the state of activated abundance. Something you can return to in any moment to recall your whole system back to the frequency of the money source. Athletes call this state management. Neurolinguistic programmers call it anchoring. The ancients simply called it the sacred posture, the asana of the awakened one. Over time, with consistent practice, this anchor becomes instantaneous. The body remembers. The field responds. The signal goes out without effort because it has become your default transmission. The ancient activation ritual. And now we arrive at the practice itself. What I am about to guide you through is a synthesis of techniques drawn from Hermetic breathwork, Vedic meditation, and biofeedback principles, adapted for immediate, accessible use. You do not need any prior experience. You need only 5 to 10 minutes, a quiet space, and your willingness to be fully present. Begin by finding a comfortable seated position. Allow your spine to be upright but not rigid. Let your hands rest open on your thighs, palms facing upward, the universal gesture of receptivity. Close your eyes. Take one long, slow breath in through the nose, filling first the belly, then the chest, then the collarbones. Hold for a moment at the top and release slowly through the mouth, allowing the body to fully empty. Do this 3 times. With each exhale, feel the weight of the day, the weight of effort, the weight of striving, releasing. Let it go. You do not need to carry it here. Now, bring your awareness to the center of your chest, the heart space, not the physical organ, the field it generates, the electromagnetic field that extends in every direction around you. Feel it, sense it. Even if you only imagine it at first, the sensing begins the coherence. And now summon a genuine feeling of appreciation, not forced, not performed. Find something, anything, that you genuinely love. A person, a moment, the way light falls through a window, a sound that has moved you, a time when you felt completely alive. Let that feeling rise in your chest. Let it expand. Let it fill the heart field. Hold this for 30 seconds. This is coherence. This is the signal going out. Now, from within this state of coherence, bring to mind a single clear image of what your abundant life looks like. Not the money itself, what the money enables, where you are, what you are doing, who is with you, what you feel in your body when you are living this life. Make the image specific, make it sensory. Feel the texture of the reality you are calling in. And now, place your right hand on your heart and speak, either aloud or silently, these words, slowly, with full intention. I am the source of my own abundance. The field recognizes me. I am coherent. I am open. I receive with gratitude and I give with joy. What is meant for me is flowing toward me now. I am ready. I am worthy. I am activated. Let the words settle into the body. Do not rush away from them. Sit with them for a moment. Now, take one more deep breath in, slower than before, deeper than before, and as you exhale, imagine releasing any remaining resistance as a mist leaving the body, completely, easily, without effort. When you are ready, slowly open your eyes. This activation builds with repetition. The more consistently you return to this practice, ideally first thing in the morning, before the noise of the day enters, the more deeply the frequency is anchored. What begins as a deliberate practice becomes a default state. What begins as a signal becomes a transmission. What begins as an intention becomes a lived reality. You have just made contact with your money source. It has always been there. Now it knows you are listening. Conclusion. You came here today for a reason, and now you understand, at a level you did not an hour ago, that the reason is not coincidence. You are living in a period of unprecedented opening, a quantum leap moment in which the gap between inner state and outer reality has never been thinner. The ancient activation principles are not relics. They are technologies, precise, tested, available to anyone who is willing to do the inner work. You have the 7 sacred keys now. Coherence, ancestral clearing, the creative state, the frequency of deserving, the language of the field, sacred exchange, and the embodied anchor. These are not ideas to think about. They are practices to embody. Begin with one. Begin with the activation ritual you just experienced. Return to it tomorrow and the day after. Notice what shifts, not just in your financial life, but in the quality of your attention, in the texture of your days, in the synchronicities that begin to appear when your signal is clear. Your experience is your most powerful evidence. If what you discovered here has opened something in you, if you felt even a single moment of recognition, of yes, this is real, this is true, then you already know what the next step is. This channel exists for exactly this kind of exploration, where the ancient and the scientific meet, where the mystical becomes the practical, where transformation stops being a concept and starts being a life. There is more. There is always more. The field is infinite. And so, it turns out, are you.